Hello, fans of the popular and practical Python programming language. Thank you for being with me in another educational video of the Python programming language. Now that you are familiar with the concepts of classes and have seen an example of creating a type and actually a point class, let's do one more thing. In the previous video we showed a point. Suppose this time we want to specify a rectangle, and now what should we specify of a rectangle so that it can be shown uniquely? It means that you should know what attributes this rectangle should have so that both the position of the rectangle and its size are known. For now, we consider two vertical and horizontal rectangles to specify these types of rectangles. We can consider a corner of the rectangle or specify its center, and also consider its width and height actually. Now we do not consider these kinds of rectangles, just these two kinds. This is one way, and another way is to consider two corners side by side. We use the first method here. We enter Python. If we come here, consider another class. For example, let's consider class rectangle. Let's add like a string. Example, showing a rectangle, Let's have attributes here, width, height, and corner. For example, width, height, corner, and we can end the doc string here. Okay, now here, now we can create an object from this newly created actually class which is named rectangle. With this just one line of command, you can see that the class rectangle is made as same as what was done in the class point. So you can consider rec1 as an object of rectangle. Okay, we run it. Can press F5 and also this. Okay, we can see that it's run, and here you can see the object and see that it runs without problems. And now if you write the definition of the object in the file and specify the attributes here, for example, let's have rec1 dot width would be, for example, let's consider 15 float number, and its height, for example, 18 float format. And we can also consider a corner, which is itself an object from the class point which is previously defined above. Now we can specify this object's attributes here. For example, consider 0 in float format and also about the y. Okay. So in this way we made a rectangle object and used the point class in the attributes. Here you can see the benefits of the classes. You can see how much they help the readability of your code. Let's press the F5. Okay, let's now call, for example, rec1. You can see its address actually. You can call rec1.corner and you can see its address again. You can have width, rec1 width. You can see its state here. You can see, for example, and you can see its state. Okay. You can see that in this way you have an orderly code with a better structure. In this way, this rectangle is determined. As you have seen, functions, classes, objects, and attributes can be used. Let's create a function that returns at the center of the rectangle. This center is a point, so you can use the point class. Let's have it here in the class. Let's have it. Def center, the keyword def, its name center, input argument a rectangle, for example. Rect. Don't forget to put the colon sign. Consider P as an object of the class point, and then consider P.x as rect.corner x plus rect.width divided into. See here, pay attention to this. If this is the x's and this is the y, so when this is the corner, this is the 0 and the 0 point. If you want to find the width of this point, which is the center, you need to add the value of x in here plus the half of the width. You can see it here. Okay. Now about y, we want to do almost the same, but this should be y, this should be y, and this should be height. And after all, we want to return. Actually, I think it should be. Let's try it. Return P. Okay. We press the F5 button. Of course, it depends on where you consider this corner. Depending on the choice of the desired corner, it may be necessary to use minus or plus signs in this expression. Keep in mind that Python performs mathematical operations in the fourth region of the mathematical coordinate system. let's call, after this run, let's call center rect. Let's actually create the center rect as an object of a class center. Let's assign the output of the calling of the center function with the input argument rect1 in the center rect variable. Center is not defined. Okay, let's define the variable outside the class. Let's press the F5 and again do it. We can see that there is no error either. We will come back to this point. Keep this in mind, and we will come back to it in the upcoming videos. Don't worry about that. We had a print point. Actually, this is nothing too serious here, but let's consider another function here, def print point. We have it actually in a p. It would print actually this p. Okay. Let's have this. Now let's apply this print point on this center rect. Okay. Print the p itself. Let's consider this one. I will come back to it. Okay, you can see the output here. Objects you create from classes are mutable. You can change the size of a rectangle without changing its corner coordinates. You can do this by simply resizing the width and the height actually. Let's have, for example, here rec1.width, rec1.width is equal to, for example, the same rec1.width plus 500, or we can also have this about height. For example, 100. We can apply these changes here, and again call our rec1, for example, then rec1.width, and you can see that it is 500 above the previous value, which you see. You can see the height here. Okay, you can see that the program is working. Now if we want to calculate the center of the rectangle, you can see that the numbers have changed, but the program still works correctly. We can actually let's have it here. Let's do a P actually is a point object here, and we have P that val, for example. Let me check this here. We can actually consider these okay, no need. Okay, no problem. Forget about this point here. I will come back to this. Nothing too serious actually. Okay. We can continue our discussion, but we will come back to here. No problem. Okay, let's have, you can write functions that modify and change objects. Let's have another function here. For example, def rectangle size change. This should have some input argument, rect, an object from the rectangle class actually, t width and t height. Okay, don't forget to put the column sign, rect that width, consider it plus equal to t width. Actually, you know that this expression means that we want to add the value of t width to the value of rect width and save it in the same variable. So we have this, and also about the height. Okay. Now run. We can say here rec dot width, rec 1 dot width and rec 1 dot height. We can see these values. Now we can apply this function on the rec1 with the values change of 150 and 220, and then call the same command, and you can see the changes here. You can see that you can change the functions of objects and their attributes. As an exercise, you can write a function to move the rectangle yourself. That is, this function must be able to take two numbers and move the corner. Let's create another class as another defined type. This class is supposed to hold the time of a day. Let's have it, for example, let's save it as, for example, point and rec. Actually, we can do something like this. Okay, we have it here. Now we want a new file. Let's have another class time. Let's consider docstring showing the time of a day, for example, showing the time of a day. Let's consider attributes hour, minute, and second, and let's add the docstring here. Now we have a new class. We created the time class. We create an object from it and also consider its attributes, and then we run it. Let's do this. Let's consider time as an object of time class. Let's consider time dot hour equal to, for example, 8, time dot minute equal to, for example, 45, and time dot second equal to, for example, 12. Now let's call this time, and unfortunately time is a keyword, a predefined word in the Python. Let's add an underscore to these, press F5, and then call our time object, and we can see this. Now what about our time, our attribute? We can see the result. What about our time minute attribute? We can see the result. What about our time second attribute? And we can see this state here. Okay, in this section we want to write two functions to add a time period to this specific time. These two functions are two different types of functions. One is pure functions, and the other is modifiers. We will talk about these. We advance these functions with the development pattern. The development pattern is such that we consider an initial state for this function and gradually consider different special states and add to it. Let's go for it. Okay, let's define print time here with an input argument t. Let's consider a docstring saying that this is for showing a string format of time. Let's have here that t is the same time object. Let's end the docstring and let's say print a string percent dot 2d colon another percent dot 2d column another percent dot 2d and then here we add an percent opening parentheses t dot hour t dot minute t dot second. You remember that in the previous video I have introduced you with this style of string formatting, and you saw how does it work. I have also introduced you with a website actually which could include many explanations about this, and now we want to back to here, which we want to add our print definition, actually definition of a print point with the input argument of p. I told to you that we will back to it. Actually these are %g and a %g. Here put %sign and then for example p dot x and p dot y. Okay, these are not important. I just told you that I will come back to it, and this is just for that, nothing too serious here. Okay, we press F5 and here we will apply this print time on our time object, and you can see the result. This 2 in 2D is a number of blanks to consider. What happens if we multiply, if we put a 3 instead of these 2? Let's consider, for example, let's press the F5 button and our last comment. You can see that it considers 3 blank side and put 0 instead of and the places which remained empty. Okay, let's change them again to 2. Okay. Now, what do you think? What happens if we remove the dots? For example, here we remove dot and press F5. Here the last code, and you can see that it does not consider that 0 which was considered here. But it is better and it is more standard if we consider it. So we again consider and press F5. Okay, we can see the result here. Now we can we create an initial version of the time shift functions. Let's do it. The keyword def, time increase, for example, time increase. Let's consider this with two input argument t1 and t2. Let's consider sum as an object of a time class. Now consider sum dot hour, which is a t1 dot hour plus a t2 dot hour. Consider sum dot minute as a t1 dot minute plus t1 dot t2 actually dot minute, and consider sum dot second, which is equal to t1 dot second plus a t2 dot second, and at the final return sum. Actually these are some problems here. It is better that we use a sum underscore instead of this sum, because sum is one of the keywords in the Python, and it is better to do not use it somewhere like this. Okay, press F5. For now, this initial version is very simple and has obvious flaws. This function creates a time object and returns a reference to the new object. These functions are called pure functions. These functions do not modify any of the objects passed to them as arguments. These pure functions have no effect, and they do not have the capabilities of displaying or receiving from the users and something like this, and they simply return something. Now let's have, for example, start as an object of time class. Then let's consider start dot hour, the same 8, start dot minute, for example 45, and start dot second, for example 50. Suppose that this is the start time of a race, for example, that lasts 1 hour and 35 minutes and 40 seconds. So we need another object from the time class. We want to name it duration. Now this duration hour is 1, this duration minute is 35, and this duration second is for example 40. Now consider end as a variable containing the output of applying the time increase of function on the start and duration. Let's consider this print time on this end. You can see that this is the result, which is not a valid format of displaying time. You can see that it does not return the correct time. To correct it, we act in this way, or we must consider inside the function that if the second or minute exceeds 59, a number is added to the next time unit. So we modify the function like this, for example. Here, if this sum.seconds, this way, greater than or equal to 60, write it here, minus 60 from that, and save the remain in the same variable, and add one number to the sum.minutes. And also we should have the same conditional loop for minutes, like that. If sum.minute exceeds 60, minus 60 from that, and add 1 to the hour. We can run it again, and we can say this is correct. It seems that this function is working properly, but the problem is that this function keeps getting longer. There is a solution to prevent this prolongation. In contrast to these pure functions, you have modifiers. These functions change the arguments you give them in the direction of their purpose. We had an example of modifiers for this function to add time. Let's have it here. Def increment, for example. Increment input arguments time seconds, like this. Time dot seconds equal plus seconds. We add this seconds, which is input arguments of this this new function, this modifier. This is at the time which should be added to our specific time, which is here another input argument of this modifier. Okay, and then we need something. Let's have this time again like this, because time is like this, or for example time 1, time the same time. Okay, we need something like these conditional statements here, but we need that instead of these sums we need to have this time. Okay, let's copy and paste. In this way you can avoid unintentional errors. Okay, these modifier functions can be used in pure function, as you can see. And after that we can say it return this time. We can run it, and you can see the output here. It seems that we have considered all points in increment, but if the input given as seconds is much larger than 60, it will not work properly. For example, if it is 1000, it will not work properly. Again, the result will be wrong because it only subtracts 60 from it. Actually, let's have actually this is the output of the time increase function. We did not run it. You can run it yourself. This is nothing special here. But you should consider that, for example, if the second argument here is, for example, 1000, it will not work properly. Again, the result will be wrong because it only subtracts 160 from the 1000 number. That is, it returns the number 940 as a number of seconds, which is invalid. A good solution is to use a while instead of if. If we use a while instead of this if, the problem will be solved. But this is a solution, but using while is not very efficient. There are better solutions. Everything that can be done with modifier can be done with pure functions. Excuse me. In fact, programming languages only allow you to use pure functions. Pure functions can be created faster and are less prone to errors. This ability to change input arguments makes many functions error prone. It is strongly recommended to use pure functions. This approach is known as functional programming style. I wanted to teach you modifiers here, but the suggested approach is to use pure functions. Have this so far. About the way we came to develop, you saw that we wrote a simple code and gradually made it more advanced. This approach is useful when you do not have a deep understanding of the problem. But this can produce a code that is both unnecessarily complex because you encounter many special cases, and unreliable because there is no guarantee that you have found all possible situations and errors. On the other hand, we have the design development approach, which we will talk about in future videos. Okay, thank you so much for being my side in another Python tutorial videos. Stay tuned because a very useful and practical tips in programming in Python language is awaiting for you in the upcoming lectures. Stay tuned. Have a nice day actually.